a matchup we have now. Barefoot, Fred Schaefer, and the Barefoot truck going against Bigfoot. Bob and Marilyn Chandler's truck out of St. Louis, Missouri, piloted by Andy Brass. Fred Schaefer lives not too far from the Bigfoot camp, and these guys go at it constantly. So you have a Chevy-Ford matchup. There's a shot of Fred and the Barefoot out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, right across the river from St. Louis, Missouri. Andy Brass piloting the Bigfoot out of West Alton, Missouri. That's Andy's hometown. He wants us to make mention of that. He does not live in St. Louis. The truck is out of St. Louis. They're staged and set to go. Bigfoot and Barefoot. There they go. Andy Brass and Bigfoot gets a hole shot. The win goes to Barefoot. And Andy Brass looking good off the line, but he made the fatal mistake. He launched. He went up in the air instead of out over the cars. And when you're going straight up, you're not going out and across cars. And the win goes to Barefoot. Here's how he did it. He approaches the ramp, stays low, stretches out, leans out, and comes over that finish line first. One more time, side by side, Bigfoot and Barefoot. Watch the difference. One goes high, one stays low, and Barefoot and Fred Schaefer, the Chevy, go into our next match. And here comes David Morris in our semifinals to go against Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. Fred, what's your strategy for this run?
You're going to have to be on the light with that short track like that. If you blink your eyes, you're going to lose. So you're going to have to be on the light and hold to the floor.
And don't blink your eyes, because this guy, David Morris, knows it's a do-or-die situation against Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. One out of Illinois, one out of Tennessee. The crowd's ready to go. The trucks are ready to go in Oakland. Off the line, equalizer is first. Barefoot trying to catch from behind. Look out, David, you got us. Oh! David Morris could not stop the equalizer and sideways into the wall, but he's out. He says he's okay. Matter of fact, he's more concerned about the truck. The ISO cam picks up David's run. He's up and over the cars. He is going against Barefoot. It's flat out. Pedal to the metal. But now, Dave, you got to straighten her out and stop. Into the wall he goes. Meanwhile, Fred Schaefer and Barefoot trying to do what he did earlier when he defeated Taurus. He comes up over the cars, tries to stretch out and stay lean and mean, but he just couldn't do it in this run. Your winner, the equalizer, and David Morris. David kisses the wall. He's going to lose points on this one, but he does advance to our finals.
One more matchup in our first round of competition, and as we said about the previous two, this really ought to be something else. All top-name marquee trucks here in Oakland like this guy. Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher out of Wadesboro, North Carolina. The Crusher, one of the top veterans, a savvy, experienced driver, but he's got his work cut out for him here as the Carolina Crusher has to meet up with the powerful Barefoot Chevrolet. This is Freddie Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. The two big General Motors machines, Chevrolets, trying to advance into the semifinal round at Oakland. The Crusher and the Barefoot Chevrolet. Hold on, Freddie Schaefer with a whole lot on the front wheels. But it's a good run for Freddie Schaefer and a victory. Watch him at the end of the run, though. He comes off the line in good shape. Like Torres, lifts those front wheels up just a little bit. Getting the power from the back wheels to push him up the ramp. Now watch at the end of the run how his front end comes down, and he gets a whole lot of that weight right on those front wheels. Kind of rides a reverse wheelie for a moment or two, but he's able to bring the back end down in good shape. And it's a victorious run for Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. This time, both trucks on the replay. Carolina Crusher on the left of the screen got out of the hole in good shape, but Fred Schaefer just had too much for him once they got in the air. And Barefoot comes down, the victor here in Oakland, so he'll advance into the semifinal round where Barefoot will be matched up against the fast loser. The two trucks are on the track. Springfield, Tennessee's David Morris driving Gary Cook's equalizer, and he's got to go up against that big, bad Barefoot Chevrolet. Now remember, equalizer's back in. It's a fast loser.
I guess it's kind of like Taurus in one of the other races when I ran him. He got fast loser, so this time I get fast loser, so maybe I can get lucky like him and make it to the finals.
Well, I'll tell you what, this track, according to some of the drivers, is a little bit hectic. It's very short in the tracks. It's not always there, right?
Right. The critical point in this course is the stopping area. We're a little bit out of shape when we come off the cars, and we really haven't got a whole lot of room to straighten out and get stopped, but we're doing the best we can.
That's our pit road reporter, Dan Danner, with David Morris. Dan also caught up with Fred Schaefer, the pilot of Barefoot.
It's a short track in there, and it's real close racing in there, just a matter of feet. It's going to be a real interesting race.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of the drivers talk about the fact that it is such a short track that the stopping is really critical in this. Do you find a problem with that?
Yeah, I have to do everything I can to stop, and you see Equalizer hit the wall last night and stuff, and it's pretty dangerous in there in a small building.
So Barefoot is ready to take on the Equalizer, the winner. We'll meet Forrest in the final today on Super Track. Full, look out. Barefoot's in trouble, and he pulls it down. A superb piece of driving by Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Chevrolet. Wow. If you'll remember back to the first round, Barefoot kind of got caught up on his front wheels at the end of the run. And here he really got hung up in the reverse wheelie for a long time, but Schaefer is able to get it back down and save the truck. Here's where he got into trouble. Watch the nose go down. The front wheels catch. And now everything's on the front wheels, but he's able to power out. At this point, if Schaefer would have hit his brakes, the truck would have went over on its roof. But the experienced driver that he is, he knew he just had to stay in, give it a little more throttle. He did it, and he brought the back end down. What a piece of driving by Fred Schaefer. Not to mention the fact that he won the race, too. You'll see it right here. A convincing, full-length victory on this relatively short course over the Equalizer. And then a superb save to keep the truck in one piece at the end of the run. 2 years ago was runner-up to Barefoot for the World Championship. Then in 1991, Jackie Willman won the championship. Who was second? His arch rival, Barefoot. There's no love lost. These guys have gone back a long time. Torres would love to beat him here.
Yeah, it was a tough race. I got spun a lot off the line, and I looked over and seen Bigfoot had his front end way up in the air, and I guess I got down on the ground first and pulled it off.
Well, tell me about the traction in your lane. You've been in both lanes now today. Which one do you think's the best?
Well, the left lane is definitely the best. The cars are mashed down more. You're not getting as much air, but Barefoot has lane choice, so more than likely he's going to put me over in the other lane.
Indeed, he will put you in the other lane, Jackie Willman, as Barefoot is now lining up in that left-hand lane. Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. We talked about the rivalry with Torres, but Fred disputes the rumor that there's bad blood between them.
Most of it's rumor. We used to be on the same team. They used to be on my team, Jack Willman did, and it's mostly rumor.
Well, I'll tell you what, two big Chevrolets are going to go at it out there. Which Chevrolet do you think is going to take it?
I think it probably won't be a foot. It's probably going to be a photo finish or a view video. I think it's going to be real close. Our times are almost identical today.
Now, they say that one lane, a left lane, has got a little more traction. Do you find that to be a fact?
Yeah, and I had a faster time than he did in qualifying, so I'll get that lane.
The scene is set. The lip service is done. It's showtime. We're going to have to get the replay camera out for this one as Torres and Barefoot come across the line together. The indication from the U.S. Hot Rod Association is right there that the Torres Chevrolet has the victory. Let's watch him on the isolated replay, and then we're going to take a look at how they cross the finish line. Jackie Willman bringing the Torres Chevrolet home with another victory over his longtime nemesis, Fred Schaefer, and the Barefoot Chevrolet. Pretty run for Jackie Willman and Torres, and now watch them as they cross that finish line. They're not separated by more than a couple of inches, but it's enough for victory for Jackie Willman and the Torres Chevrolet. There it is right there. You can see it. He barely noses out Barefoot.
And the crowd is ready, and we're ready, so let's get down to it for monster truck racing from the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. David Morris, the Equalizer, out of Springfield, Tennessee, the hottest running truck on the circuit so far this year. He's going up against the veteran. He was last year's world champion, Fred Schaefer, and Barefoot out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Fred Schaefer, Barefoot, David Morris, Equalizer on the starting line. Let's go racing. Both drivers waiting for the green light. And they're off. Fred Schaefer with a bit of a hole shot. He comes off that first set of cars sideways, has to straighten things out. That's all the time David Morris needed to get a win. David Morris taking advantage of some handling problems that Fred Schaefer had off the starting line. You can see it right here. He's out of shape as he comes over that first set of cars. He has to take some time to straighten things out. Meanwhile, David Morris in the equalizer comes off perfectly and over that finish line. A tough break for Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. One more time off the starting line. The tires are spinning. Meanwhile, equalizer looking perfect. And there's the difference right there. Fred Schaefer overcorrects, goes over to the other side, the right side of the track, and David Morris, the equalizer, goes on to victory. And as we told you at the start of the show, this starting line's tricky.
Yeah, they got to start so close to the ramp there. Their tires are spinning when we hit the ramp, and it's kicking the dirt up, putting a lot of loose dirt in the starting line. It's going to be real interesting to see what's going to happen here. They're trying to address the starting line now and see what's going to happen between rounds and between trucks.
Here's the Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter, going against Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. Fred out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Now, he was the 1990 world champion, and he's doing his best to recapture that title in 1992. But when you're among the best, you have guys like this one to contend with. Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher out of Wadesboro, North Carolina, who on any given day can turn it on and come up with a win. We're set to go side by side, Barefoot and Carolina Crusher. Green light, and Barefoot with the hole shot. They both slow down after the first set of cars, and it's anybody's guess. We'll have to check the ESPN cameras and wait for the U.S. Hot Rod Association to make a determination on that one. Carolina Crusher and Barefoot. There's Gary Porter. He backs off. They seem to be coming off that first set of cars with a problem in both lanes so far. This is Barefoot's run. Now, he pulled way over to the left, and he's still leaning to the left, tries to oversteer to the right, and he comes across. Ladies and gentlemen, they're announcing the winner. The winner on that one is Barefoot. Barefoot, the guy with the hole shot, was able to hold on. This is where Carolina Crusher starts to catch up. Barefoot turns it on now. And, ooh, just inches separate the two. The win to Fred Schaefer in the air and Barefoot. Next up, Fred Schaefer and Barefoot, and this guy's a veteran. He has some thoughts on this rather tough track.
It's muddy, of course, on the end where the mud racers are throwing mud at. This end's got sand for the mud racers to stop, so it's pretty tricky on both ends.
One more question. With a full house out there, to get you pumped up a little bit?
Yeah, I get crazy for a big crowd.
Let's see what's going to happen. Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, with Barefoot going up against Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher. Gary Porter out of Wadesboro, North Carolina. And Gary is a true competitor. We'll call him the lone wolf. He travels by himself on the circuit. Barefoot, Carolina Crusher on the start. Side by side, they go over the cars, meet in the middle, turn around. And Porter has problems. Porter has problems on that turn two. Barefoot's just smoking them. And Gary Porter doesn't even have a shot at this one before Fred Schaefer wins it. And look at the pole. It just falls down on its own. It says everybody else has knocked me down, but nobody got close to him on that one. The win goes to Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. And Gary Porter's just sitting there scratching his head on that one. Fred Schaefer, look at that use of rear steer. He's got that thing dialed in. Over the cars. Just a beautiful run for the big Chevrolet Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. He was the world champion in 1990. He'd love to have it again in 92. And Fred Schaefer taking advantage of the problems Gary Porter having. So the Barefoot Monster Truck moves on to our next round of Monster Truck Challenge. Bigfoot and Barefoot. Barefoot and the veteran Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois.
Talk about the race against Carolina Crusher.
pretty close race. There's a little bit of mud on the one end there, and I got around the corners pretty good and did good.
How about the straight track as opposed to the circular track? What do you like better?
Well, I guess the older drivers like me has got a little more experience on the circular track, and I think my truck's probably a little bit more prepared than some of them because of the experience.
Experience is going to play a big factor here because he's going up against Dan Runty and Bigfoot, a relative newcomer to the monster truck racing scene. He's piloting the big blue Ford Bigfoot.
I like the track so far. It's pretty smooth as far as the corners. The cars are really smooth. Other than there is one hole in this blue set of cars that does throw you back up. The ramps are good. The corners are good and smooth. The sand helps a lot on the corners. I like the track.
Dan Runty likes the track in Bigfoot. Fred Schaefer says Barefoot is ready, and there they go. On this important turn, both clear of the pole. Bigfoot seems to have this track dialed in, and Fred Schaefer, whoa, Freddie, he had some problems. Dan Runty, he has problems on the turn, comes over the finish line first. It was not the prettiest win I've ever seen. This young man thinks it's too loud, and the crowd is just sitting mesmerized. The winner being announced to the crowd as Bigfoot. Dan Runty, he had to watch this pole. That's the one he took out earlier. What a great job. But look, the rear end comes around. Dan Runty is out of shape, but he does keep two tires over the cars at all times. He crosses the finish line, stops it. Hey, the winner is Bigfoot. Now notice that Barefoot's not even in the picture yet. He's not even over the cars. Experience didn't help Fred Schaefer this time, as Bigfoot is your winner. He'll take on Taurus in our monster final. Equalizer. Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, going up against David Morris and the Equalizer. David Morris out of Springfield, Tennessee. We call him Smiling Dave, and he has reason to be. He's been picking up a lot of wins this year. Fred Schaefer, he was world champion 2 years ago in Barefoot, and he is trying to catch the pack in 1992. David Morris backs up as he stages for this matchup. Wife and a young daughter sitting back in Springfield, Tennessee, watching Daddy on the tube. Fred Schaefer's ready. Equalizer's ready. Equalizer doesn't even get off the line, and Barefoot is there. You gotta wonder what happened to the Equalizer. David's been running so well this year. But the win goes to Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. It's set for our next matchup, Taurus and Barefoot. Chevy versus Chevy, side by side. Fred Schaefer and Jackie Willman. No question about it. No question about it. The win goes to Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. So the Barefoot Monster Truck does it here and advances to the championship race in Providence, Rhode Island. Jackie Willman was not sleeping, but Barefoot just HP'd his way through. Horsepower was everything in this race. Off the line, side by side. And it's just a matter of I got there first. As you said, they worked very, very hard to get here, Ken, but it ain't over until it's over. This is our Monster Smash final in Providence, Rhode Island. And Fred Schaefer is on Gary Porter's mind.
Barefoot, he's a really strong runner. You know, he's been working this track really good. My truck, it's been working this track really good also. You know, I've changed some stuff on the truck, trying to make some more horsepower. It seems to really be getting out of the hole really good on the soft starting line, and you know, I think it'll be whoever cuts the closest light will win the race. So the truck is just running 110% right now. You know, I've had some bad luck earlier on in the year. We've got it straightened out, and we're going for it. The biggest thing going through my mind is cut a close light. If you fall asleep and cut a slow light, you lost the race. You know, the race is over. You know, if you're sleeping at the line, you know, just a fraction of a second, you lost the race.
Gary Porter of the Carolina Crusher. It's good to see him back in the championships. He's worked hard to get here. Now, Fred Schaefer is no stranger to championship races. He was the 1990 world champion. And Fred, I know Gary Porter's on your mind.
He's a number one qualifier tonight. He is the guy to beat tonight. This is Carolina Crusher. It's going to be a tough race.
Fred Schaefer, Barefoot, Gary Porter, Carolina Crusher. Let's do it. In Providence, Rhode Island, one goes to the winner's circle, one goes on the trailer as the bridesmaid. Well, now the track officials are motioning for help. What's going on here? Fred Schaefer and Barefoot seem to have lost reverse. He's lost reverse gear. They're having to back him up. Now, the U.S. Hot Rod Association rules say that a truck must have both forward and reverse gears, and that means they must have it going into a competition. Fred Schaefer and Barefoot did have that before the competition. He lost it. He lost reverse on the starting line. They're getting him back. They're checking to make sure everything's fine. They say no leak in the transmission. He's going to run against Carolina Crusher. I hope he's got forward gear. We're in the finals right now. He may not have been able to go backwards, but he definitely could go forwards. He definitely could go forward. The win goes to Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. Fred Schaefer had some trouble. They had to back him up. He even came from behind with the win. I've heard of having transmission problems, but if you're going to have bad problems, let's have reverse in monster truck racing. Just look at this. Boom. He's our winner here in Providence. And Gary Porter was doing everything right today. Running strong. The truck was holding together. The driving was good, but Lady Luck was not smiling on him. Let's go to your winner, Fred Schaefer.
Well, I've just made a lot of gear changes, some motor changes, transfer case changes. It's tough. These are the fastest 6 trucks here, and it's a tough battle every weekend.
Now for points, this really helped you out.
Yeah, I did. It brought me up about 30 points, 35 points.
Talk about the race against Carolina Crusher.
I knew it was going to be real close. He's #1 qualifier, and I think with the starting line doing what it's doing out there, I think it was anybody's race. I think it was a little bit luck as far as running good.
You crossed the line. You don't have the official time, but you knew you finished first. What's running through your mind?
I was glad to win, really. I was glad to win. I needed to get back up there in points, and these trucks are really fast.
One key to your winning today overall was
stay in there and keep thrashing. I mean, I just keep thrashing on it. I mean, keep changing every run. That's what you got to do.
Watch out. A close night's coming up in all races.
All 6 of these trucks today ran within 1/10 of each other. I mean, there's very little room for human error there when you're running that close, that competitive. It makes the sport, real interesting as far as, you got to be able to cut a good light. It's anticipation when it's going to come on. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. So, it's something that we try to do, and that's what breaks a race.
And Lyle Hancock of the Gravedigger better be on his toes tonight, because his competition definitely will be the veteran Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. We asked Fred if there was a difference between the lanes here tonight.
Track's quite a bit different. We got the right lane is pretty bad. That's the lane I qualified in. The left lane is a lot smoother. Quite a bit of difference in the lanes tonight.
Now, you're operating with a new kind of clutch. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's a slipper clutch. It's what a lot of the pullers are using in drag races and stuff.
Okay, you looked a little unhappy when you came off the course. What was the reason?
Well, the ramps is quite a bit different out there, and we let them know earlier, and they couldn't do anything about it. There's daylight and dark difference between the ramps. It makes the truck want to fly straight up and down. They couldn't change the ramps in time.
Now, Fred, Gary Porter beat the odds here tonight. Let's see what happens between Gravedigger and Barefoot. High-flying action. Gravediggers out of there. Barefoot picks up the win. The U.S. Hot Rod Association has to time every one of these matchups. They are so close here at the Knickerbocker Arena. But Barefoot, a decided winner in this one. And look, you saw the Gravedigger raise up first. He had the hole shot, but Barefoot just leaps high, much higher than Equalizer did. But he gets across that finish line first. That's what horsepower will do for you. And Barefoot gets that win. Driving style is everything. And Fred Schaefer is dialed in here tonight. He starts, approaches that ramp flawlessly. Now watch what happens here. This is what launched the Equalizer. It does the same thing to Barefoot, but he had the horsepower behind him, and a rough landing. We land on 1, 2, 3, all 4 tires going different ways. Not a pretty win, but a win all the same for Barefoot. And Fred Schaefer, he advances to round number 2. A house full of happy campers here at the Knickerbocker Arena as we get set with Carolina Crusher and Barefoot. One guy that's not happy is David Morris, and Jim Clark is with him.
And you're not very happy. Tell us about it.
No, we had the first 2 races, we had a little trouble down here on the starting line and communication between starters, and I don't think Barefoot was ready for his run, and I wasn't ready for mine. And when Crusher took off, well, I had to take off too, so that delayed my time enough, so we got bumped out of it, and we'll just have to come back and try to win again.
Okay, you're going to try to protest at all to the timing?
Well, it's recorded now, so there's nothing we can do about it.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel?
Well, I'm not too happy about it right now. I feel sorry for these guys when I come back out again.
What are you going to do to them?
I'm gonna stomp them worse than I have.
Oh, boy, I knew we'd get that smile back. David Morris of the Equalizer looking to do some stomping. It'll be another day, though, Dave. Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher, and Fred Schaefer, Barefoot. 2 Chevys on the line. Fred Schaefer and Barefoot managed to stay low that run and pick up the win. The win goes to Barefoot. He stays low in the lane that everybody has had trouble in so far tonight. He's found a sweet spot in the yellow lane. The slow-mo cam picks him up. Gary Porter and Carolina Crusher actually got off the line first, but Barefoot powers his way through, and he's across that finish line first. He's going to our finals. He'll be in the championship run. So Fred Schaefer has been able to take the bad lane. He's been stuck there twice so far here in Albany and turn it around and turn it into a winning situation. Moves a little bit to the right. That's his sweet spot. The horsepower does it all. He sails over the cars, picks up points, and goes to the championship. The crowd is on their feet as they stand for our Monster Smash final in Albany. And what 2 trucks they are. 2 Chevys, Barefoot, and Taurus. We've been here before with these 2 bad boys. Jim Clark standing by with Fred Schaefer.
I look forward to probably a photo finish. I think it's going to be real close.
Okay, you're going to be pulling what lane, and are you glad about that or what?
I think I'm going to stay in this lane. I got lane choice. I got a faster qualifying time than he does, so I'm going to stay in this same lane.
So Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, is set to go against the world champion Jackie Willman and Taurus. And they each apparently have the lane they love. Jackie Willman is sitting in the cab of the truck as Jim Clark catches up with him right before this run.
It's one of the toughest contenders, and I'm just going to give it my best shot and see if I can get him on the light.
Any special strategy you're going to be using on this next run?
No, I'm just going to try to get the best takeoff, and my truck ain't running up to par. Just don't feel like it's running as well as it could. I'm just going to give it my best shot.
Jack Willman, Jr., Granite City, Illinois, the home for Taurus. The trucks are set, the crowd is set, it's showtime! And a big win for Taurus! Oh, look out, Jackie! Jackie Willman goes out of bounds. That's going to cost him points according to the U.S. Hot Rod Association rules. But what happened to Barefoot? Fred Schaefer looked great off the line. He hit the ramp, and that was all she wrote. Jackie Willman, meanwhile, may have come a little bit too far to the left. He approaches that ramp as he did earlier, but this time you can see he's off to the side. He's in the air. There's nothing he can do here. He stays on track, takes out the finish line pole, and then heads to the right and the side of the arena as he leaves and goes out of bounds. That cost him the points there. This is a shot where you can see Fred Schaefer looking, boom, like he has problems right there. The truck does not launch. Matter of fact, if you look, you can see some smoke coming out of Barefoot. He does have some problems.
There's a big hole in the bell housing. What happened?
Well, the looks like the slipper clutch exploded, and this is why we have safety equipment and safety rules. This shield here is what protects you, and it's a good thing it was in there because you can see how it stretched this out here. This whole 2 or 3 inches right here has all been stretched about this far. If it wasn't for that shield right there, there'd be parts to the dashboard and everything. It protects the driver and the legs and the spectators also. It's a good thing it was in there. Thank God for safety equipment.
Thank you, Ken. Our first round matchup, an all-out foot matchup. The legendary Bigfoot, the truck that started it all, coming into the Tampa Stadium, and he's going against Fred Schaefer and Barefoot, a Chevy and Ford foot shootout, side by side to start this thing out. There's Andy Brass out of West Dalton, Missouri, driving Bob and Marilyn Chandler's Bigfoot. Going against him from just down the road, Pontoon Beach, Illinois, Fred Schaefer and Barefoot. Fred was the 1990 world champion, and he's trying to do it again in 1992. Bigfoot and Barefoot. And look at Bigfoot. He comes from behind. Now the turning's where it all is, and Barefoot has some problems. Bigfoot goes on to win it. He sails across the cars, and Fred Schaefer almost lost the truck. As he comes over, he lands very, very hard and just cannot steer. He's working. If you look up in the cockpit, you can see him working. Nothing seems to be going right for him. He almost flips the truck. Meanwhile, Andy Brass comes around and goes on to victory. And this is a good chance to talk with Fred Schaefer.
Fred, what happened to you on the suspension?
Ladder bar bracket broke and let the shocks get in the frame, tore the shocks up.
Do you know what it caused it?
Just landing hard on one side.
Did you anticipate anything like this?
No, I didn't. Going hard as I could.
What are you going to do now?
Fix it better. Make it better for the next time.